Good afternoon, ladies. Hills Crisp here, business marketing and confidence coach. And today I am going to talk about perfectionism and how you can stop perfectionism before it stops you. Because do you know what? Perfectionism is basically a really sneaky form of procrastination, because it kind of appears to be a good thing, right? We tell ourselves things like, I just like things to be, just right. Well, I want to be seen as the best, as one of the best. I'm being professional, or, I don't do shoddy work. So, of course, it's like there's nothing wrong with wanting to do really, really good work. But when we get into that perfectionist thing where we spend more time than is necessary, that we overthink it and that we kind of go over and over and over things, tweak, 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 but it's like it's never good enough. That's when it can massively halt progress if you let it run riot in your business. So I've learned, I used to be a massive perfectionist, and I've learned how to manage my perfectionist because it used to hold me back a lot. I wanted all my ducks in a row. I wanted to know the whole plan before I started, and things like that. And because I have a really good eye for like visuals, I have a really good sense of a good user experience and things like that. I used to spend so much time on Canva or like tinkering with my website, trying to get the button just right, trying to make things as beautiful as possible, and trying to compete with people that had been in business for years longer than me, that have got a team and all of that, other people helping them with stuff. And then my perfectionist would show up, particularly, this was a really sneaky one, particularly around my own marketing, because as a marketing coach, I wanted my marketing to be the very best, and sort of faultless and a great example of how to market so that it would inspire others to work with me, right? So they could look at my marketing and go, I love the way she does her marketing. I want to do mine like that, right? Just, oh my goodness. And I would tie myself up in knots with that one, I can tell you. And it still shows up sometimes, but I get over it mostly now. But this perfectionist, it was exhausting, it was time consuming. And what I began to realize is that it's not having things like a perfect website or a beautiful backdrop for videos that brings in clients, right? And when we try and make these things perfect, we stop ourselves from making real progress. Okay. And so now my mantra is pretty much, it'll do, and I just move on to the next thing. Okay. So hi, if you want to share, anyone who's on live, just share anything you've got around it. So I've got a couple of questions. So what do you try to make perfect in your business? Is it visuals? Is it the website? Is it copy? Is it content? Like, what do you, what are the tasks that you spend just far too much time on trying to get perfect, right? So for a lot of people, perfectionism shows up in marketing, right? And it looks a bit like this. It's a bit jokey, but it's like your inner creative director who has amazing taste and style stops you from putting marketing material out there, like blogs, videos, social media posts, photos, web pages, etc., or even your offers out into the marketplace because they're just deemed not good enough. So I've got a couple of questions here. Yeah, visuals and comms, I spend way too much time on. Yeah, totally. Having the right photo and the content. Yeah, it's just, the right photo. Like, what does that even mean? Your inner creative director knows that it could be better. It knows what you're trying to say or the look that you're trying to achieve. And then there's the part of you that can see that you're just not quite hitting it. It isn't quite good enough, right? So your inner creative director is just going, well, I'm not signing that piece of content off. It's not good enough. You need to keep working on it, right? And I'm kind of joking, but we do have this like committee of people inside of us that are just pushing and pulling us around. And often, we hear that voice that goes like, no, it needs to be better, or maybe try a different photo, or try like blurring the background, or, whatever. And then we can be at a bit of a loss as to how to make it better, maybe without investing in, expensive graphic designer, or spending even more time, or learning, or, trying to get it perfect. I have a committee of gremlins. Yeah, I totally get it. And someone else saying, must try harder. I know, it just holds us back and slows us down, and it's unnecessary. But of course, this is what I want you to really know, is you can't help anyone if your offers and your marketing isn't out there, right? If you're not getting it in front of people because you've spent so long working on maybe one piece of content, and then, you know, that's it, is your one piece of content for the whole week, no, hardly anyone's going to see it. So it's like, if you're not getting in front of your ideal clients, then nothing's going to work, right? You need to get in front of people, and you need to embrace doing that in a just imperfect way, right? It's fine. It's good enough. And I'll go on to a little bit why in a minute. But I want to talk about first why this perfectionism shows up, right? Why it shows up. Just want to read comments. I can totally resonate. I ran an online kilt making course and initially put subtitles on and presented all the videos with notes at the side and visibly lovely. Yeah. But my students asked just for the plain videos. How interesting. Now I do it with no frills and it works really well. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes we actually think, oh, we need to add all this stuff. And actually people don't want that. And often it's like, just because we can add captions or subtitles or pretty graphics or branding or whatever, doesn't mean that you should, right? Just because all these features are available doesn't mean that you have to use them. So why does this perfectionism happen? And as I said, it's a form of procrastination. And I think that these are the things that run underneath procrastination. And they're mostly, and they're all kind of related, but fear, feeling not good enough, or feeling vulnerable. Okay, so fears could be things like fear of judgment, fear of what other people think, fear of it not working, fear of rejection, fear of failure. Yeah, all of those. I don't get it. We have fears running the show a lot of the time, particularly as, you know, women in business, you know, particularly in the first couple of years as well, and you're starting to put yourself out there. It's so common. It's so common. Unless we can become more aware of the fears and kind of address them, then the fears are going to be running the show. And they're the ones that are going to say, like, oh, but people are not going to like that. Or you're supposed to use yellow, like red's not the best color to use. Or, you know, like, oh my God, we can literally drive ourselves insane thinking of all the reasons why it's not good enough, right? Rather than just going, it'll do, you know, it's fine, it'll do. Let's just get it out there and see what happens. A second one, feeling not good enough, right? Perhaps you had really pushy parents, or you're just very sensitive to criticism. You know, it's really common, again, to not feel good enough. And it's as we put ourselves out there, particularly, this is why I love blending marketing and personal development, is because as we put ourselves out there, it's a really vulnerable thing to do. So of course it's not good enough, you know, it's going to show up. And it shows up in business every single time we try and step beyond our comfort zones, right? Or we do something new, or we do something challenging, or, you know, we're launching a new offer or being more visible or whatever. It can feel really hard to get confident enough to do it, but only so I'm looking at my notes and it doesn't make sense. Confident enough to know only do your work with people, but market yourself as well. Yeah, it can be hard to get confident enough to even do your work, let alone market it. And the third one is vulnerability, which I've mentioned, but it's like having a business that you're really passionate about, that feels like your calling and that you're pouring your heart into, and then marketing that. It's a really vulnerable thing to do, right? It brings up all our fears of like, no one's going to like it, no one's going to pay me, people are going to ridicule me, all of that stuff, right? It's just so vulnerable. It brings up all sorts of fears and feelings and anxieties. And yeah, you know, I just think we have to be so kind to ourselves around that, and to really understand what is kind of running the show underneath, so that we can have that awareness. Maybe we can address it with something and move forward. So perfectionism, I think, is a form of protection, right, against feeling any of these feelings or fears or anxieties or whatever. We kind of think, and it's so logical, our brain thinks if we can just get it perfect, then the fears will go away, or at least they will lessen. But it actually isn't true, right? Firstly, there really is no such thing as perfect. Obviously, we know this. But what is perfect, right, or good, it's so subjective, right? Everyone has a totally different idea of what that is. To one person, something is spot on, and to someone else, it's awful. They're like, oh, why would you use that font and that color? And oh, right. But to someone else, they're like, oh, that's really appealing. I really like that. we all have different taste, right? So it cannot be perfect to everyone. And you may believe that first impressions count, right? We often think that, and if we put something out there that's kind of second rate or whatever, that we think, our target audience are going to unsubscribe, or they're going to, not follow us anymore, or they're not going to opt in, or not going to follow you or like you or whatever, right? And that they will forever dismiss your brand and your business and never want to hear from you again, right? And it's rubbish. It's poppycock, okay? Yes, first impressions do count, but do you know what? Think about the amount of information that we forget, okay? Really, we take in millions of bits of information every minute or something ridiculous every day. And if we could take it all in, our brains would literally explode, right? So if we retained it all, right? So our minds filter stuff out that we don't need all of the time, filters it out and forgets it, goes in the bin, okay? But if it's not out there, then no one can like or follow or sign up or whatever you want them to do, right? And if it is out there, and okay, you may think it isn't perfect, but if it's good enough, the people who resonate with you and your message and your brand will still follow, like, sign up, or whatever your call to action is, right? And actually, it's your energy is so much more important than your pretty graphics, right? People want to see you, they want to feel you. It's not about having perfect graphics or whatever, right? It's about you and your message and your passion. That is so much more important and will get you clients so much more than focusing and procrastinating over perfect graphics or whatever. The important thing is showing up so you can build your audience, reaching out to them, building your network, listening to your ideal clients so that you know them really well, and putting stuff out there. Right? I'm a massive fan of, or sort of, I often advise, you have to just learn, you have to practice, you have to experiment, right? Particularly like in business, you're only going to know whether something works or not if you put it out there and you find out, right? Do people like it? Do they turn up? Do they buy it? And just try not to take it personally. It's all just information of like, okay, well, that didn't work. Maybe I need to change something, or maybe that's just not what people want right now. And what do they want, right? It's a constant feedback loop. That's all it is. So, and it's the only way to improve, right? If I hadn't have sent my embarrassingly awful, very, very first email to my tiny little list, 8 years ago or whatever, I wouldn't be where I am now with the list that I've got and have, developed a skill in writing copy and content. I just, I would never have got there if I hadn't have gone through and practiced and just done it. So this perfectionist inner creative director, if she's there now, she's probably still going to be there even when you up level, and the stakes can feel even higher. So fear, I just think, doesn't go away, right? Studies have shown, they've asked successful people, I think it was a Brené Brown thing, she asked successful people about fear, and they all still experienced fear, right? It's what we do with it, how we manage it, and how we can move past it that's important. So I invite you to become aware of what are your fears, anxieties, and feelings that are going on underneath this behavior of perfectionism, and really any procrastination, but we're talking about perfectionism today. And remember that behavior is a coping strategy for not feeling what is underneath, right? So the solution actually is to be with it, to see it, to feel it, to hear it, and to just be gentle with it, right? Think of it as like it's like your inner toddler, okay? You just go, it's okay, I know you're a bit scared, I know, it's all right, but it's okay for us to do this, okay? We're going to move forward because we're actually really excited about it. Only then can you move beyond it, so it doesn't slow you down and it doesn't hold you back. So I'll just leave you with, good enough is good enough, and if it's not out there, then no one can find you. So get used to making progress over perfection. And the last thing I wanted to share is, I think it's a Harry Truman quote, and it is, imperfect action beats perfect inaction. So I hope that has been helpful. Thank you for joining me live, and thank you for your comments. I needed to hear this today. Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad it helped. And I will speak to you all really soon. Take care. Bye.